What's up, guys? Chronos of Tech here, and today I'm going to be covering how to do file permissions. So let me give a brief description on what that is. Wait, I'm in root. Let me go back to my home directory. So I have a bunch of files here. I have amen, contacts, delimiter2 .text, field test.text, and all these different things .text. So let's look into the delimiter2 file. Delimiter2.text. So I have a bunch of just random stuff in here. So basically, if we look at the file permissions for this file, by putting in ls-l for a detailed description of the file. Then we put in our file name, delimiter2.text. Then we get our permissions. So our permissions are here. So right here, what it's saying is the user. It's better if I do this. So that, let me do it again. So pretty much what you can see here is you can see the permissions in full. So you can see RWX, RWX, RWX. So I'm going to show you guys exactly what that means. So the way these permissions work is they work in octal ranges. So if you haven't seen my video on the numbering system and what octal is, what hexagonal is, what's binary, then you're going to want to go back to that video and check that out. Right, excuse me. But so these file permissions are pretty much in octal. So we have 333. So RWX stands for one octal section, RWX stands for the second, and RWX stands for the third. Now the way this works is the first section is assigned to the user or the person who created the file, the owner of the file, right? So these are the permissions for the owner of the file. And then when we move on to the second octet, these are for the group that the owner belongs to, right? So and I'll get into that in a minute. And the last octet is for others, so anyone else, any other user, what their permissions are in this file. Now each of these letters stand for something. So the R stands for read, W is for write, X is for execute. So right now this file has read, write, execute permissions for everyone: the user, the owner of the file, the group, and other people. So so essentially anyone can open this file, look at it, change it, execute it, whatever, like if it's a script, right? Now if we look at this section over here with Chronos of Tech, that is the first one is the user that's currently on the system. This is the group that the user belongs to. And then other people obviously stand for other people. So the way that we change this is I always refer back to the numbering system because that's where you're going to understand this. But there's two ways of changing this. One is symbolic and one is octal, the octal way of changing it, also known as absolute or relative. So we'll look at absolute first, and absolute being using the numbering system to change the file. So as you see, I changed the file to read, write, execute for everybody with a 7. And if I'm not going to go over the numbering system. If you guys want to understand it, then you guys are going to need to go back and look at that video. But in order for me to change it, let's just say I want to change this to the user having read, write permissions and the group only having read permissions and other people only having read permissions. Well, how I would do that is I would do change mod, which changes the file permissions, and I'll change it to 644. Why? Because in the easiest terms I can put it as, read R equals 4, W equals 2, and execute equals 1. So if I want read write permissions for my first octet, that's going to equal 6. Okay. If I want just read permissions, that's a 4, and just read permissions for the other group, that's also a 4. So if I put that in, and I put delimiter 2.text, and I take another look at it, you're going to see that the permissions have been changed to read, write, read, read. Okay. It might be a little complex. You may not understand it right now. As I always say, look back at the numbering video so you can fully understand this stuff, because it's important. Sometimes you need to change files so other people don't have access to it if you're operating a system with other users, or sometimes you may need to change the file of a script in order to run it, to take it from not being able to run, not being able to be run, to being run. Okay, so sorry guys, my throat is like sore right now. So there's another way to change all the permissions of a file. So if I go into so this file right here, let's say I want to just add something, and this is known as a relative path. Let's say I just want to add write permissions to the group. Then I could do change mod, and I can do group plus write, and I just put in the file name. Okay, and then if I LSL it, then you'll see that write has been added to the permissions. Right now, the way that works is that's relative. So in relative terms, G equals, actually it's better if I just show you guys here. So in relative terms, G equals group, U equals user, and O equals others, right? So essentially, if I wanted to change the rights or the file permissions for the other group and also make that a write as well, then I can go into others, or I go change mod, others, and then add a write permission to this file. Okay, and then if I open it up, then you can see the write permissions have been added. So that's kind of how that works. Obviously, R equals read, W equals write, and X equals execute. Okay. Now, if I wanted to, let's say, take away some permissions, for example, then I could put change mod, and I could say group minus, I can use a minus sign and say minus W for the file. Okay. If, for example, I wanted to, I didn't want to waste that much time, and I wanted to kind of take away the other write permissions for others and write permissions for the group, then I can do that by going change mod, and I can say group and others. Wait, I'm trying to remember this. Group and others. I believe no. It would be group O or GO. I believe minus write permissions to the delimiter 2 file. I believe that's how that's what the syntax looks like. Let me see. Yeah. So, and then if we look at the file, right, the group and the others have been changed to just read only permissions. So that's kind of how file permissions work. I honestly just use the octal version. It's a lot easier because I just remember the numbers, so I can just change mod very quickly, put everybody at read and write permissions, or I could just change mod quickly 644, which is typically where most files are at, and just have read write read permissions. So that's basically how file permissions are changed. Obviously, if you have any questions, y'all can leave a comment, and I believe that's it for file permissions. All right, peace.